What up, traders? What up, investors? Ken here from Dyslexic Investor, and we are looking at an interesting tweet. Actually, this came from the Wallstreetbets forum that I saw. An interesting tweet that Barclays is a investment firm or basically a large bank in the world is explaining that trades by Robinhood customers between March and early June, and concluded that that more they bought of a specific stock, the worse the stock performed. And of course, the comments are completely hilarious, where they're saying that Hertz was going to go bankrupt and they're going to go out of business, and then had the reaction of a Robinhood trader just saying buy, 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 buy. Of course, you could have made money if you're trading it, things like that. So this is somewhat a little bit not factual in my opinion. There's always ways to make money in trades and not really completely understand things. So that being said, we're going to be looking at the top 10 holdings here. We're going to be using the fantastic robintrack.net. This is like an API that tags into the Robinhood stock portfolio system, where it basically tells you the most popular stocks all the way down to the top 200, I believe. We're just going to cover the top 10s. We're going to start with GoPro and work our all the way down to Ford, and then we're going to be looking at the charts via Thinkorswim and give potential guidance and potential support and resistance lines on those different various stocks and tickers. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, first one we're looking at is GoPro. GoPro has been pretty much not well performing here. You can see previously in the year it's been well below the 200-day moving average. We've seen a slight pickup in GoPro the last couple weeks with the onslaught of basically the understanding of how things are moving. So we slide over the chart here using, again, that Robin track. You can see here the purple or pinkish line is the price, and then the green line is basically the amount that has been bought by the users of Robinhood. So basically a huge increase basically around the end of January into February, and now kind of slightly maxing out basically the about a couple weeks ago here on the June, the end of June into the beginning of July, and now kind of slightly declining into August there as well. So does that mean that the stock's going to continue going down? I don't know. What you can ask Barclays about that. But we can do a quick little analysis here. We're going to do a Fibonacci retracement from the previous swing high to low. Again, looking for, we're above that 78.6 percentile move. We are holding that 21 EMA very well. That's what we use for trending, and same with the 34 has come down very well. The only caveat is that we have earnings coming out this week. This could be, again, go higher and go lower. Earnings, if you haven't watched the channel, is basically a coin flip in my opinion. So this could be a large movement, again, to a lot of volatility, adding it to the up or downside. That movement on that earnings is looking for about $1.50, $1.50 move higher or lower. So that would basically kind of put it above that particular high here on the daily chart, but to the downside, looking around probably to the 618, really strong support if it comes crashing down to the 200-day. So if we're going to be more bearish, you're going to be more or less betting on a particular movement or a magnet to the lower part of the band here. To the upside, you're really looking to try to break to all-time highs, not all-time highs, but on this daily high, because you can kind of look here on a much longer time frame of GoPro. GoPro used to trade almost $100, so it's just been a very lackluster, underperforming stock. But you never know; it could get a bid from the government and completely just go parabolic like Kodak and start making, I don't know, they can just switch into making, I don't know, pool supplies and things like that. All right, next one on the list is going to be CCL. That is going to be the cruise line. That's also going to be one that's been held quite a lot, again, due to the overall. Very similar to like what the GoPro is. A lot of folks bought the dip here, basically wrapping up to a little bit later in the overall pandemic, basically at the low, really buying a lot in March and just increasing their position all the way, kind of petering out again around that June, and then kind of July. It's just kind of been steady around 500,000 folks are holding this one there. So looking here at the chart, you can kind of see it's been extremely beat up, again, due to the pandemic, the virus. A lot of cruise lines can't even sail, it's very limited, and then the onslaught of just waiting for a vaccine is the most important key factor here. That being said, is CCL a buy here? I'm not going to be running out here and buying this without a doubt. This looks still underperforming here. You see the 5 and 8 have crossed through the 21 here on the daily side, still below the 21 here, and kind of certainly trending lower. What we're really looking for is kind of have this base build out, and we start seeing the 5 and 8 start curling into the 21 would be a nice significant sign. The volume zone oscillator and RSI are just really much asleep. On the weekly side, you see the same picture here. Potentially really need to get above that $19 to $20 price target where you really want to see this trend to continue. We just have that parabolic switch on the weekly side. That's not a good look. We really need to start breaking out above that 21 on the daily and around 20 on the weekly if you're a different term investor. Next one is going to be the Tesla. That one's been a hot one for sure. Again, ever since last October has just been off to the races. So we can go ahead and look at that one as well. Looking here via the information here. This thing has honestly been climbing with the overall stock. Of just this momentum has just been continue going higher. Again, the purple is the price of the stock and green is the ownership within Robinhood. We're basically hitting at a very high peak, the highest it has been for Robinhood investors, but the stock has been somewhat nominal, just not really, I wouldn't say performing, but it had a strong quarter, but I think the momentum with the amount of buying and the multiple gaps up has really created a price that was not within grasp for Tesla to beat on earnings. I honestly really like this pattern. We're holding that 21 here very well. If we can hold this pattern here and kind of build a strong base, we could see some potential highs. This can easily come down to the, again, Tesla's going to be very, very fast-moving stock, very volatile without a doubt, and a lot of motions are tied to it. So a lot of people are very cult-ish stock, where people are really have their opinions, really strong opinions about the stock. So that being said, if it breaks the 21, was around 1420 here, looking for downward support around 1333. If that can't hold, we're looking down to like the 50-day around 1160 there. That being said, if this can kind of build a base, which we're kind of looking at, building a base around the 21 here, basically around the $1,400 price target, kind of stay stagnant, maybe hibernate for a little bit, and kind of build a strong base for another push higher. Because again, we're still waiting on Battery Day and the onslaught of the new factory in Germany, and of course, breaking ground in Texas. All right, next one on the list is going to be Microsoft. Microsoft again. Microsoft's been in the news quite a bit, especially this lately, on the sense of TikTok. That Microsoft might have the opportunity to buy TikTok from the Chinese Bitly or Bit something company to kind of form, to comply with potential regulations if President Trump decides to sign that. And of course, this one as well has been at a very high peak, really working with the overall momentum of the stock here in the price. Even though Microsoft had a pretty large dip due to the pandemic, the ownership just really increased substantially again, almost at 600,000 users on that one. So with Microsoft here, kind of had a pretty good quarter, got shaken out a little bit, really hit the 21 and 34, which we kind of fall for the overall trend here. Continuing to look at this for potential building a base here, really looking for it to break out above the 208 price target and potentially to get to all-time highs. Downward support, as you can see here, initially to the short term is around 200. To that, really is going to be the next level of support to the downside is be around 190. That being said, we have a slightly of a squeeze setting up. RSI is nominal, and same with volume zone oscillator is starting to kind of build up to potentially try to break that downward parabolic SAR trend here. So around 208 would be a great price target to kind of start breaking out and potentially start really seeing some momentum going here. Fully disclosure, we're currently in Microsoft as well. Next one is going to be DAL. This is going to be the Delta airline. This one has also been very much beat up like Carnival Cruise Line. Again, you see a lot of that ownership really increase on that, basically that dip there, and really just going super parabolic once Warren Buffett got out of those shares. Kind of here hitting a stagnant around, again, the same time frame like Carnival Cruise Lines is kind of the June-ish time frame, and just kind of been somewhat kind of hovering around there, the amount of ownership there, potentially looking for I'm not sure of what the investors are looking at, but potentially some longer term hold possibilities on a full recovery of Delta to start breaking out above the $37 price target. Currently, we're at 25 bucks. Been really much beaten down here. We're in a squeeze. Everything's just kind of looking, just nothing looking great. The quarter was terrible. No one's flying and things like that. Yeah. When you hear the famous saying, when there's blood in the streets, you should be buying stocks. In this case, you're really going to have to be able to, potentially, my honest opinion, is going to have to hold it for quite some time before you start seeing a full recovery on this. Because again, the vaccine and the overall virus is really just keeping this down, and really this trend of that was really just putting a cold bucket of water all over the stock to kind of not let it go flying. That being said, looking for upside support, again, kind of similar to Carnival Cruise Lines, the 5 and 8 really need to start crossing over through the 21 and really break that downward parabolic SAR. To the downside, we got the low of $17.50. I'm not saying that can't happen. Even with a terrible quarter, we really didn't see that price go to that extreme, but looking for potentially this kind of leveling off. By leveling off, we mean by the 5 and 8 kind of start moving sideways and potentially just building a base to kind of start seeing the 5 and 8 start crossing through the 21 to kind of get that momentum going again. RSI and volumes on oscillator, nothing to speak of. On the weekly side, same here. We are starting to see a potential base building here. A base building means we'll be for a couple weeks. Need to start getting some more level playing field here with the 5 and 8 on the longer term side. I think a lot of people are playing this for the longer term. That being said, we can be looking at potentially seeing a price target above $30 to start seeing that momentum kick in and really get that positive notion of, hey, we're back in business. Next one is Disney. That's DIS, Disney, the Walt Disney Company. This, of course, has also been hit due to the overall pandemic because, again, all the parks around the world closed off. Sports stopped working because Disney owns ESPN. Then we also have Disney Cruise Lines, of course, that was also hit pretty drastically. This one as well has kind of petered out, actually a little bit different than the other stocks. This one kind of started petering out towards the end of last month or July, and kind of starting to kind of go nominal, basically around 600,000 ownership there within that company. But this one being said, we have a substantial position in this long term. This has been a very long term stock for us here. But the previous swing high to low, the Fibonacci retracements, really not seeing a lot of movement to kind of break above that 120 price target. So that 120 price target is basically a overhaul ceiling of resistance, and not really seeing a potential to kind of really break out and above that. We do have earnings coming out on Tuesday after the close. Again, we could see some particular movement in that. With that movement, we could see basically around $6.50 of that stock movement. So that could potentially put us all the way up to the 618. So around $1.25 there. That would be a great little trend there. We kind of saw some overhead pressure there as well. So a lot of overhead pressure around 120 to 125. But if things go well, we get some great numbers from Disney streaming, Disney Plus, and seeing the parks starting to expand and get more money with the other ventures of sports coming back and things like that. That could really propel this substantially higher. To the downside, it's really just kind of trading sideways here. Potentially, again, this has been in a very sideways action. We can really just throw this box around this sideways motion here, basically just trading in this range here. If you want it to be on the bearish side, you really need to start seeing it break below the 107, the previous low that we saw about a couple weeks ago, and then start trending lower to around the $100 price target. That being said, I think that my honest opinion is the worst is somewhat behind us, and now more optimistic traders and investors are coming in to kind of see this kind of play out to the further upside. But again, earnings can be complete coin flip. Things can go drastically crazy, but this will be definitely an entertaining one to watch. Next one is going to be Apple. Of course, that one has just been absolutely skyrocketing here, especially with a monster quarter, and especially on Friday, jumping nearly over 10%. So this stock will hit probably $2 trillion very soon. Okay. Everyone thought that Amazon's going to hit $2 trillion first. I think Apple's market cap's around $1.8 trillion. It's absolutely insane. The largest company in the world jumping 10%. Just think of that. That's just so much notion and momentum behind this. So looking here, this really sums it up very well on the chart. Basically, a lot of investors really coming in here at the bottom, and of course it's just really been holding this line all the way up, hitting a peak again just on Friday. Really high ownership with this, really increasing substantially. Does that mean it's going to come crashing? I don't know. I think, but a lot of folks are super optimistic and just getting behind this momentum of this trade. Having a huge gap up here on earnings, really just blowing out the lights, looking at potentially stalling and kind of showing some overhead resistance around the 426 level. But again, that's only a level, that's only a line here from the Fibonacci retracements that can easily break through that. We could see a run to 469. They have that stock split towards the end of the month. Some folks don't quite understand a 4-to-1 split. That doesn't mean you're getting free money. Everything's still going to remain the same. You're just going to get more shares for the same value of the stock. But again, people can look at that and people are like, oh, it's free money. I'm like, oh, no, it's not, but whatever. Just be super mindful of that. We could see a lot of that emotional trading come into the stock in the next couple weeks towards the end of August when they have that split coming up. With this one, it's just been super high momentum, flying higher, really looking for a potential kind of slowing down a little bit, because this is kind of unreal for a large stock like this to continue moving higher. But again, anything can happen in the market. Just be mindful and be ready for some turmoil, potentially coming around to 411 and potentially to 400 for some potential downside support there. Next one is going to be another airline. It's going to be American Airline. Of course, the folks here at Wallstreetbets and Robinhood really bought a lot of this here on the dip here. You can see here on the chart. Again, buying here towards the very bottom, really just wrapping up. There was like next to zero ownership, so like about 10,000, and now we're well over 650,000 users holding this particular stock. That is pretty substantial, even though the price has been declining. Even with this dip here, this large movement, the ownership has gone up. So this, again, I think folks are really looking for potential longer term on this. This is going to be kind of the same syntax in the sense of what we're talking about. Delta really needs to kind of start breaking this trend. We are trying to build a base here. Potentially, if it starts breaking below $10, we could see some potential further downside. But I can kind of see this leveling off again, getting closer to the vaccine, which is God only knows when, and we can kind of see a particular play to start getting that base building here, kind of stop the bleeding, and potentially get the economy, especially air travel, back into full swing of things. I don't think it's going to be coming back 100%, maybe just to 50 or even 45, 30% would be substantial for these companies to be able to maintain their companies and their growth. Next one is GE, another one that's kind of been lackluster. This is one I believe that has just been really not great performing here. One I really wouldn't want to be touching. You see ownership, of course, everyone basically buying the dip here, and of course ownership has been increasing actually into the day of just this week of August, first week of August, looking at potentially further downside, looking for support basically around $5.50 to $5.75. Even though with this last 3 or 4 days really just trading lower substantially, going from about $7 all the way down to sub 6 almost. That's a pretty large move in basically a $6 stock, dropping 3% just of the last Friday of trading. Really looking for those moving averages to kind of start consolidating. We can do a substantial Fibonacci extension here, so we can do the previous swing high to the low to the high here, and we can kind of look at some potential price targets. Oh, didn't click here. Potential price targets around $5.67, kind of for a potential bottom, to see if this can kind of level off here, potentially leveling off here around $6, potentially trading sideways for a little bit to kind of see how things play out. But this is going to be a very difficult one to touch. That at least we have Ford here. Basically, this one has been performing better than other stocks, but again, the car business is not really doing very well, besides if you're a Tesla, which Tesla, this is more or less a technology company that makes cars. But that being said, from the previous swing high to low, that 200-day, very similar to Disney, that 200-day has been a lot of overhead pressure here. Really not seeing that significant movement in that overall pressure to continue going higher. We can kind of look here on the chart here within Robinhood. Basically with Ford, we've seen again huge uproar of positions, well over almost hitting 1 million here of holding this particular company, even though the stock price has just been kind of just trading sideways since the bottom here. It had a run up, failed here at the 200-day, and now just kind of trading sideways. Yes, they have a lot of great stuff coming out. They have the electric Mustang, they have a new Bronco design coming out as well. So this is going to be good catalyst for the company to continue going higher, but it's really going to come down to how the overall economy is doing, on how the overall movement of the stock could happen. That being said, to the downside, we're going to be looking at support basically around the 650 price target, where we kind of saw on Friday, again closing down nearly 2%, potentially looking for 650 to 610 there to the downside for support. To the upside, we really need to break above $7 to potentially see that 750 price target. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're interested in joining the Dyslexic Investor Club membership, that's down below in the little join button next to the subscribe tab. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is Ken from the Dyslexic Investor, and I'll